which is titled Party Time, What Kind of Left Do We Need? And this rally is discussing what I think is the question of the moment. What we see in Britain is a Labour government attacking working class people, a Tory party sliding into oblivion, and a far-right party in the form of Reform UK polling at 30%. And this rally is about talking about how the left can hit back against all of that. And amongst all of this, I'm sure everyone else would have been very, very excited to see the news and the announcement we saw the other day of Zara Sultana finally leaving the Labour Party. Now, we have got a fantastic panel of speakers here tonight. You've all been cheering for them already, and I will come to introducing them one by one. So I just want to say as well that while there are people in here, there are also many, many more waiting outside to see these speakers speak again. That's how many of us have come in to see this rally today. And now, without further ado, I'm going to start by introducing our first speaker. And this is someone that definitely does not need any introduction. I'm sure he's someone that's had a busy few days, and we're very excited to hear about it. But this is someone who has stood on the side of people fighting back always in this country, from Palestine to the anti-racist movement. He is the former leader of the Labour Party, the independent MP for Islington North, and the People's Prime Minister. Please give it up for Jeremy Corbyn!
Thank you all for being here, and thank you to all those that have organised Marxism today and over many, many years. And I first went to a Marxism event probably in the 1980s, whenever it was started. And I've always admired the way that this event is put on, the number of different meetings and events there are, the number of events and meetings there are, and the opportunities it gives to people from all over the country, indeed all over the world, to come together, share experiences, share ideas, and go away emboldened and empowered. And that is exactly what I see in front of me. A large group of empowered people. And it almost reminds me of the brilliant night in 2001 when we formed the Stop the War Coalition. I was a total pessimist and thought there'd be about 200 people and a dog there. And I did my speech, and then I did 7 overflow meetings after that. And so today we're not quite 7 overflow meetings, but we've got some. And that shows the thirst there is to achieve change in our society. Politics is about the issues that face the ordinary people of our society. Politics is not about Westminster manoeuvrings, who said what to who when they said it and what they meant by it, or what they didn't mean by it, and it's not about ego building. It's all about mobilising people in order to bring about change. No fundamental change in our society, be it national insurance, old age pensions, free education, the National Health Service, civil liberties, anti-discrimination, race relations laws, or anything else, ever came about from an inspiration within Parliament. They only ever came from pressure from outside. There's also a fundamental need to understand historical movements. I was brought up in schools like all the rest of you and taught that the great William Wilberforce, wonderful man apparently, ended the slave trade and slavery. Yes, his name was on a bill that helped to bring about the end of it, but it also gave massive levels of compensation to the slave owners. which was only finally paid off in 2015? No. What brought about the end of slavery was the organisation of sugar workers in Jamaica and other places to halt the sugar trade, to make the slavery. One historical example. And then you look at the issues that we're faced with in our society at the present time. We have the most massive levels of economic inequality that I've ever known in my lifetime. We have more billionaires in our society than ever. We have more rough sleepers than ever. We have more children living in desperate poverty than I can ever remember. And we have that sense of depression after 15 years of austerity, which sadly is continuing at the present time. And we also have the problems of health provision, which are all apparently down to people's lifestyle choices. And I got into an argument in a debate the other evening about this, and they said, well, it's people's lifestyle choices, that's why they're obese, and why shouldn't they be obese? I said, no! It's all about poverty, where poor families buy the cheapest, most unhealthy food to feed their kids because it's all they can afford. So it is a question of looking at levels of inequality in our society. And I have to say, the performance of the Labour government over the past year has not actually fundamentally changed any of those issues that were so central to last year's general election. They refused to lift the two-child benefit cap, thus keeping hundreds of thousands of children still in poverty. They refused to deal with the issues of housing and overcrowding and homelessness, other than by saying we will build 1.5 million more homes. Okay, I would be very happy if we were building 1.5 million council homes, but we're not. What we're doing is, through the infrastructure bill, occasioning and enabling the whole development of the private sector to diminish the level of social housing in our society. We need an end to right to buy. We need the construction of a lot more council housing, but we also need control of the private rented sector, and we need controls on the leasehold sector and the way they're fleecing people through leasehold charges. We also need to look very heavily at the issue of how our health service is being created. Now, I'm sure every one of us here totally loves the National Health Service and the principles behind it. It is amazing. And I thank the South Wales miners for the inspiration of the Tredegar model, which became the National Health Service. It is an amazing model. But, and this is the big but, it's been hollowed out, privatised, and cut up in so many ways. The Health and Social Care Act of 2012 was designed to do just that. And the privatisations come in has meant that millions is taken out of the NHS every week in profits by the private sector. Millions that could and should be spent on patient care and help for people. But instead, we have a reducing capability of the NHS because of underfunding. And then for those of you that ever listen to daytime radio, commercial radio, all you hear hour after hour after hour is take out a private health insurance, we'll buy you our way past the NHS queue. That is not the answer. If the NHS doesn't have the capacity to deal with the needs of people within its own facilities, and the private sector does, simple, take over the private health sector. Worthy of the name. And so we've had this disgusting business this week of an attempt to take personal independence payments away from people. I remember the fight to get personal independence payments, the fight to give dignity to people with disabilities to be able to live independently. They tried to take it all away. They got semi-defeated on that yet, but it's not over yet. It's still under threat, and the principle behind it is still under threat. The demand of taking $5 billion out of the DWP budget in order to put $13 billion into the defence budget is still there. we have to be part of the campaign led by the disability organisations to stop this change and instead examine the issues of poverty and opportunity for all people with disabilities. And if it costs more, so be it. I would rather do that. Has been very serious for the future of our society. All of us here, I'm sure, have been on many marches, meetings, demonstrations, protests and so on over many, many years. And what I've noticed is it's become more and more difficult to organise public events, more and more difficult to organise protests, greater and greater attack on our civil liberties. And if we don't defend our right to protest, our right to march, our right to demonstrate, our right to dissent, then it will go. It will be taken away. And we will end up in the straitjacket of a society where the only opportunity to protest anything is if it makes no difference whatsoever. And so we have to stand by all those people that have been victimised for taking peaceful protest action in order to bring about justice within our society and peace around the world. This is a serious and very important time. Would be to examine the way in which the state in the early part of the 19th century, after the Battle of Waterloo, there were many, many thousands of homeless former soldiers who were very angry. Peterloo, Cinderloo and other places as a result of that. That was when there was the biggest denial ever of civil liberties. Popular protest brought about right to protest and right to organise. Learn lessons from history as well, because it's a great teacher for all of us. I'll finish with this. Last night, a few hundred more people were shot down in Gaza. Why? Because they were trying to get food for themselves and their children. They were mown down by an occupying force. Children dying from starvation. Children dying because they can't cope with an operation undertaken without anaesthetic. A whole people under occupation and now being literally starved to death before our very eyes. I was very proud that South Africa took the case to the International Court of Justice to try to bring a case of genocide against the government of Israel. Well done, South Africa, for doing that. And I'm sure Angela Salma will be saying a lot more about that. But the issue for us is what can we do here in this country about it? And we are part and parcel of the supply of armaments to Israel that have been used to bomb Gaza and indeed now bomb the West Bank. The parts for the F-35 jets, 15% of the components are made in this country. They are also being made here and used to bomb Gaza. We are therefore, as a country, complicit. We are therefore complicit as a country. So we have done everything we can with questions, demands and so on in Parliament. I've demanded a public inquiry through a bill I put forward called the Gaza Inquiry Bill, which would try to open the truth up about the deals, the sales, and the legal advice that was given in the same way we did after the Iraq War. The bill was blocked again yesterday in Parliament, so we're doing it ourselves. We're holding a 2-day open public inquiry into policies related to Gaza. That is practical action for all of us. So we've got to stand with the Palestinian people to end the occupation, but also recognise that our protests do make a difference. It has forced things back in lots of ways, but above all, it gives hope, inspiration and support to the poor people of Palestine and the way that they're being treated. So don't allow the media to denigrate Palestinian people. There are people with a past, with a history, with a culture, with music, with art, with poetry, and with a future. And so our solidarity is with Palestine as a whole. And those who call our marches the marches of hate, just come on one and look at them. And you'll see the Jewish bloc, you'll see Muslim people, you'll see Hindu people, you'll see Buddhist people, you'll see people of no particular faith, you'll see people of all ages, all ethnic groups, all languages, in solidarity together with the people of Palestine. That is what I think. The last thing I'll say is this. There is a danger of the far right mobilising within our society as there are across Europe. What they do is go and offer simplistic answers to every issue that comes up. And if you ask Nigel Farage what the cause of poverty is, of school overcrowding, of hospital waiting lists, of traffic jams on the M1, of the bad traffic lights in Westminster Square, the shortage of champagne in nightclubs in the West End, it's all down to refugees, apparently. Every single thing is a responsibility of refugees, particularly those desperate people in Calais and elsewhere. Let's have a human instinct. People seek refuge to get to a place of safety. They are human beings, just like any of us. And look at the cause of as we call for peace and ceasefire in Gaza, we do the same in Ukraine, we do the same in Sudan, we do the same in the DRC, we do the same in Yemen. And we build an alternative political voice that unites independent groups all over the country, like my good friend Michael here, what Salma and Andrew are going to be talking about a bit later. We build that alliance of left-facing individual independent groups around the country who want peace, who want social justice, want an end to inequality, and are prepared to politically campaign for it in order not just to defeat the far right, but to show that community popular power can and will bring about real political change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Can we hear it for Jeremy again? We now get to do the whole thing again in the tent outside. But I'm really delighted to announce our next speaker, who is someone who has been a long-time fighter for Palestine as well, and also a long-time fighter against racism, and someone you always want to stand with in these struggles. And most recently for me, it was outside Reform Conference in Birmingham, where Salma Yaqoob was giving Nigel Farage the hell that he deserves. She is the former leader of the Respect Party. She is a patron of the Stop the War Coalition. Please welcome Salma Yaqoob.
Thank you. There isn't a single person here who hasn't been impacted by watching those terrible images coming out of Gaza. Heartrending. We can see, witness ourselves the live genocide that is taking place in Gaza. And I don't expect tears of sympathy from a Chancellor who this week had tears of sympathy only for herself, when she was quite happily endorsing a bill which would condemn thousands more to desperate poverty in this country. That's the leadership that we have. But friends, sisters, brothers, dreamers, the revolution's already begun. A year ago whilst the Starmer government, which I never had any faith in anyway, was elected, let's not forget, 4 independent MPs alongside Jeremy Corbyn, MPs for Islington Road, were elected, a historic achievement because the spark from Gaza has caused a fire in the UK too. We have had enough. We have had enough of the betrayals, the broken promises, the uni party, which delivers only for the few, the billionaire class, which has bought the media and political class. They tell us there's no more money. They tell us we have to be sensible, fiscal responsibility. But these are the words of cowards and collaborators. The system isn't broken. It's working for the people it was designed to work for. Instead of calling out the super wealthy who hide their wealth offshore, these people cannot even demand a wealth tax of those who've got assets of over £10 million, which would mean we wouldn't need a single cut. We wouldn't need our disabled brothers and sisters who are already terrified, who already live under poverty conditions, to now face the indignities that are being forced upon them. I've come from Birmingham today, the second city of England, and it's a shameful thing that 1 in 2 of our kids, 1 in 2, live below the poverty line. Either they can't afford eating, or even a bed to sleep in. 1 in 2. That's the desperate situation. And the government's policy right now is to increase that by 50,000 more kids up and down this country. This is beyond disgraceful. That's why I said I'm not surprised about the heartlessness of people abroad, because this is how they treat people here. And when they say they blame Muslims, migrants, asylum seekers for the inequalities in this country, for the desperate things that people, ordinary people who can't afford to live a dignified life, it's all about a distraction. A distraction from the fact that they are bought for, paid, bribed, and blackmailed by that same billionaire class which is quite happy to distract and scapegoat these vulnerable minorities just so that they can keep their own wealth. I said the revolution had already begun. Just this week, we heard the amazing news that Zara Sultana was the best MP of this generation, who won as a Labour MP, and despite the hostile environment, continued to fight against the cuts, continued to fight against austerity, continued to speak up against racism and for Palestinians. She has decided to leave that party because it is not a home for anti-racists. It is not a home for people who stand up for decent values. It is a home for the people who support genocide and cuts for all the people in this country. We now have a block in Parliament already. This is not about starting something, it's about building on something that we already have. A block bigger than reform, despite the fact that own the media, despite the billions being poured in. These are all people who won not for the backing of corporate lobbyists, who won because of people power. That's people like you and me, and that's what we are, the real threat to people in power. This is what they fear, all of us getting together, saying, not in my name, we will not be cowed, we will not be bowed. And the time for the movements who are already out there, the grassroots organisations, the food banks, the local communities trying to build that support when they're being divided from above. There is a need now to bring that all together in a genuine political home, a home which speaks for them, a home which is a voice in the heart of power where they have been locked out from. We want a political party which is not top down, which is created, which is by the people, for the people, and that time is now. Let's build it together, let's make it ours, let's not wait a minute longer, the time is now.
Thank you so much, Salma. And our next speaker is again someone who has always stood with the Palestinian struggle. He is a socialist who has been elected by the people of Preston several times as a councillor, and most recently this year
for those that don't know me, I'd like to just introduce myself to what I think is my unique record. I was introduced that I've stood several times for council. I've been a councillor for a long, long time. In 2003, I stood as Socialist Alliance Against the War and was the first councillor to be elected under that label. 4 years later, I stood as a Respect councillor, so I changed my name. 4 years after that, Respect had sort of fallen out with each other, so I stood as Left List, which was a bit strange because I was the only one standing. There wasn't a list of anything. The next time I stood as Tusk, and then last year and this year I stood as a Preston Independent. So I say that for two reasons. First of all, because throughout the last 20 years, part of building an electoral left alternative to Labour is something that's been part and parcel of my political soul. But the real reason is that I hope that when it comes to re-election in 4 years' time, that I'm standing under the label of the new left political party that we're about to announce in the next couple of weeks. So, this time last year I spoke at Marxism, and at that point we were talking about Starmer's majority, and I think I said at the time that I thought that was the majority built in sand. He got his huge majority, not because people turned out in their tens and hundreds of thousands to vote for Labour, but because the Tories' vote collapsed. And in fact, Salma got less votes than Corbyn did in 2017 and in 2019. But the other key thing about the election last year was that 5 independent MPs got into Parliament and across the country, on the back of the Palestinian movement, based in the Palestinian movement, there were independents who got 15%, 20%, 25%, which meant that last year, the votes for the left of Labour candidates across this country was unlike anything we'd seen in this country since the Second World War. It was a huge step forward that showed the thirst for a left alternative to the Labour Party. Now, Labour was elected, and normally you get a honeymoon period. Keir Starmer's was less honeymoon, more waking up the morning after a dodgy one-night stand. And really, almost immediately, because of his continuing support for the Israeli slaughter in Gaza, because of the way in which he turned on old people with the winter fuel allowance, because of his failure, despite what he said in opposition, to remove the two-child cap, despite the fact that in opposition he said he would support WASPy women, he ignored the WASPy women, and of course more recently the attack on disability rights. It's been clear from the very beginning that he has no intention of improving our welfare services in any way, improving our social services in any way. He tells us there's no money, but what he's also pledged to do is to put defence spending up to 5% of GDP, meaning that what he wants is a warfare state and what we want is a welfare state, and he can't deliver on our demand for that. And that meant that as of the run-up to the re-elections, I think Keir Starmer did something quite remarkable, because there was an opinion poll, I don't know if you saw it, which said that 76% of the population thought that he was unfit and to be the governor, to be the Prime Minister, and that they distrusted him. 76%, that's 3 in every 4 people distrust the Prime Minister, the Labour leader Keir Starmer. So quite remarkable how his star has fallen to such depths. Now in May in Lancashire, we stood as Preston Independents, built on what we'd done at the last election, and I think it's significant for 2 reasons. Because we got 3 of the 4 seats that we stood in, we won that, and we won that in Lancashire, where in every other ward and across Lancashire, Reform did fantastically well or won. I now sit in council with 53 Reform councillors, but there are 11 independents who sit with the Greens as the official opposition, and in Preston, Reform's vote went down because we were able to block them, because we were able to argue on the doors that we are the anti-austerity, pro-welfare, anti-establishment organisation, and we do it far better than Reform, and that's the lesson that I think we have to generalise across the country. So this week it has become clear that we're on our road to a new party of the left, and that's something that each and every one of us in this room will celebrate and look forward to. Newsnight on Thursday said that immediately, without even having a party name, it was 10% of the opinion polls, and it was the majority of those in the 18 to 24. Fantastic. But let's not kid on that there won't be difficulties ahead, because we've been down this road before. We've been there with Syriza and Greece, with the Linka in Germany, with Rifondazione in Italy. We've been there with Respect, and we've been there with the Corbyn project inside the Labour Party. They are going to come for us. So this new party must, it seems to me, be several things. First of all, it must be rooted in the abandoned communities of the working class. We have to go out to the communities and we have to fight for those votes, and we have to show that we're the representatives of those people. So we have to do that, and then we have to fight to make sure that we get MPs and councils returned. But this isn't a project about getting councils and MPs primarily. This must be councillors and MPs who go to Parliament and go to Council to be the megaphone of the movements and the trade unions in our communities. We have to represent those movements in Parliament. We're not there just to get into Parliament for an end in itself. And the final thing is that bringing in a party brings a discipline. So we must make it absolutely clear that the 5 independents have been great and done some fantastic things, but they have also made some mistakes. We must never be in the position where any MP of this new party calls on the armed forces to break strikes like they've done in Birmingham. And we must make it absolutely clear that when there's an attack in the Palestinian movement, it is a requirement of everybody who represents our movement to be in Parliament, voting it down, speaking out, because that's the kind of representative we need and we demand.
Thank you so much, Michael. And our next speaker, also someone who needs no introduction, someone who has fought against apartheid, has always been a great friend of the Palestinians, the former member and MP for the ANC in South Africa, and also importantly, someone who got 18% of the vote against Keir Starmer just down the road at the general election. Please give it up for Andrew Feinstein.
Well, this is a bit bigger than last year. If you're wondering why everyone's disappearing after they've spoken, it's not only so they don't have to listen to me, it's because we're all having to go and repeat our speeches to the overflow crowd outside who we couldn't fit in here. Thank you so much to all of the organisers, to all of the volunteers, and also the staff and security staff from this venue for making this possible. It's an incredible honour to speak on this platform with all of these great people, even if they're out of the way. But more importantly, it really is a great honour to be here with you. And in the next session, I'm going to be talking a bit more, as Jeremy mentioned, about the similarities between apartheid South Africa and apartheid Israel, and how we win in Palestine. You probably will agree with me when I say this. My own local MP leads the most mendacious, warmongering, benefit-snatching, billionaire bros, undemocratic, repressive government this country has ever seen. And at midday today, a huge number of Keir Starmer's own constituents have started marching against him in Camden. And what his constituents are saying to him on this march is not in our name. Stop participating in a genocide. Free Palestine. We need to take on this repulsive, authoritarian government, both on the streets and in the pompous halls of power. we have to win electoral power too. Not for careerist politicians. We shouldn't have career politicians. I don't believe Jeremy, who served in Parliament, is a career politician. He is a representative of his community, who spends more time in his community than in Parliament. In Keir Starmer's community, when I stood against him, we knocked on 52,000 doors. And the most overwhelming question I got from people on the door when they realized I was the same ridiculous-looking person as on the pamphlet was, "What are you doing at my door?" I don't know who my MP is. I don't know who my councillors are. The guy was running to be Prime Minister and his own constituents didn't know who he was. This is the nature of the politics we have from our career politicians, and we will not have that in the new movement party we are building. As Michael so eloquently said, the purpose of winning power is to ensure our activists, our social movements, our communities are represented in those pompous halls. But most importantly, to ensure we fundamentally change the structures, rules, and functionings of Parliament, of our councils, of the state, so that they all serve the many and not the few. We must take power on the streets and in the halls of power so that we create communities, a country, and a world that treats every person with the respect and dignity they deserve. We must build, not just as we are saying in Camden this morning, a Camden, a country, and a world that is focused on peace, on justice, on equality, and on respect and dignity for all. And as someone who was extraordinarily privileged to play a very tiny role in the liberation of South Africa from 350 years of racist, white supremacist rule, just like Israel is today. Just as we liberated South Africa, so we will free Palestine. Just as we liberated South Africa, so will we liberate our own communities to build a better life for all. And from that experience, let me share with you what I know for certain. History is on our side. And if we move forward united, victory is certain. If we are welcoming to all who are desperate, to all who want a proper democracy of the people in this country, to those who want a politics that gives a voice to the many, not the few, then victory is certain. If we move together, if we stay together, if we work together, we will triumph. Because, as Nelson Mandela said, and as Zoran Mamdani intoned in his victory speech, after 27 years in an apartheid jail, Nelson Mandela was asked how he retained faith that he would one day be free, that South Africa would one day be free. And he said, I never lost faith in my people in South Africa. I never lost faith in the millions around the world who stand in solidarity with us. And I know now, and I knew then, that it is only impossible until it's done. Thank you.
Wait for me, Andrew. We've got time.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Now, our final speaker, is someone who has been central to the We Demand Change events and initiatives that people here might have been involved with or been to. We Demand Change is something that's bringing people together around the country to discuss how we fight back against this government. He's also one of the organisers of this event and the National Secretary of the Socialist Workers' Party. Please welcome Lewis Nielsen.
When I look at what Zara Sultana said the other night, when I look at the fact that 30,000 people have signed up to it, when I look at the response to the attacks on Kneecap, Bob Villan and Palestine Action, and when I look around this room, I am filled with the possibility of hope. And I'm filled with the possibility of hope because for too long, the headline of British politics has been the politics of despair. For a year now, this government has told us that rather than taxing the super rich, they're going to cut the benefits of the poorest people in society. They told us that rather than telling nurses they can have a pay rise, they're going to spend billions on weapons to Ukraine. And they told us that when the genocide of the Palestinians is being live streamed on our phones, they're going to continue selling arms. And throughout all of that, faced with the threat of the biggest far-right surge we've seen since the 1930s, they are using the language of the racists and Nigel Farage. You know a government is in a bad way when it pleads incompetence as an excuse. Keir Starmer the other day said he was sorry for talking about an island of strangers. He said he wasn't aware Enoch Powell had used that language in 1968. He said he hadn't read his speech properly. Well, what about the phrase he said that immigration has caused incalculable damage to this country? That phrase could have come out of the words of Nigel Farage or the British National Party. And therefore, when I say hope, we're saying to Starmer, we're saying to Farage, we're saying the left is ready to hit back. That's what the announcement says. That's what that announcement from Zara, from Jeremy, from Andrew and the rest of them, that's what that announcement has meant to millions of people. And wouldn't it be good if the new force, the new party that is coming, wouldn't it be good if rather than being a party which rains down attacks on working class people, wouldn't it be good if it's a party that stands with working class people on the picket line and on protests? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good if rather than being a party which on the same day that the MPs posed for a photo to celebrate the direct action of the suffragettes was banning Palestine Action, wouldn't it be good if it was a party which was a megaphone for our movement for Palestine and defied all the smears of anti-Semitism, all the accusations of being a terrorist, and it was a party that stood tall and said, that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And wouldn't it be better if rather than having the argument that the way you fight reform is you compromise with racism, or you don't talk about refugees, or you don't talk about migrants, wouldn't it be good to have a party that stood up loud and proud and said refugees and migrants are welcome in Britain? But to do all of that, we have to say that this time is going to be different. Because we know that whatever's coming, we know they are going to throw everything at us. Jeremy knows that better than anyone. The press, the police, the right wing, they are going to throw everything at us. And this time has to be different. Because the stakes have never been higher. Genocide in Gaza, fascism in Europe, poverty at record levels. When they throw everything at us, we need a force that won't compromise, that won't step back. We need a force that will mobilise the movement, working class people, the Palestine movement, the anti-racist movement. We will root ourselves in that movement, so when they come for us, we, rather than calling off that movement, we will call on that movement to defend us. That's the kind of party we need. So we need an alliance, a network, an umbrella. We need a force that is uncompromising on the question of Palestine. We need a force that takes on the racists and says refugees are welcome. And we need a force that says things can be different. It doesn't have to be this way. And to do that, we have to channel the anger from disabled people against cuts on the benefit vote. We have to channel the fight against fascism and the far right. And above all, we have to channel the feeling of solidarity with Palestine. We have to channel that into a fight against this system. To do that, it requires politics, organisation, leadership, but above all, we need audacity. We need to be bold. What happened on Thursday is the starting gun. The cat is out the bag. The genie is out the bottle. Everyone, millions of people in the country are ready to answer the call to fight. Everyone in this room can be part of leading that call and leading a struggle which says tomorrow will be better than today. We will beat the far right. We will stop the cuts on working class people. We will stand with Palestine and we will build a different world. Thank you very much.